In many ways, the story of salvation reaches its climax today, ahead of the resurrection. The resurrection is not just a postlude. It destroys the bonds of death for every man and woman. And the ascension is not just an appendix, because by it, Jesus opens for each of us the gates of heaven. But there is a very good reason why the story of the crucifixion of Jesus is told in such great detail and with more attention than any other moment in the Jesus story. And that is because of his death on the cross. Through his death on the cross, Jesus restores that which was broken at the very beginning of the human story: faith and trust in God. The whole human story begins with a breakdown of trust in God. In Genesis, the serpent entices Adam and Eve to be a little bit suspicious of God. Suspicious both of his promises and of the boundaries that he places around us for our own good. And so he undermined their trust in God. Did God really tell you that you couldn't eat the fruit of this tree? You won't really die if you eat it. In fact, your eyes will be opened. When they stopped trusting in God, their relationship with God was shattered. Our nature was fractured, and our human family was cut off from its source of ultimate happiness. And because of the broken nature of our human condition, and because our trust and our faith is limited, we have been unable, by our own will, by our own power, to save ourselves, to restore that bond. We have needed a saviour, one who could live complete trust in the Father, supreme abandonment unto his will. That was Jesus' mission. His cross rebuilt that shattered trust between our human family and the Father. His cross is a bridge of trust that makes it possible for us to return to communion with God, source of all happiness. On the cross, Jesus places his trust in the Father for us, in our place. He entrusts himself to the Father. And as a result, he reverses that first story of trust broken and abandoned. Despite the incredible suffering he experienced, despite the almost complete abandonment that he experienced by those closest to him, despite his brutal rejection by his own people, Jesus continued to trust and to entrust. And this limitless trust in the Father and his will rebuilt the bridge between us and God that the first family's lack of trust had destroyed. Today we should thank God for this great gift, the mystery of Christ's cross that has rebuilt the bridge of trust between us and God. And we should let it penetrate our hearts. And even though today we cannot kiss or touch this cross, in the silence of our hearts we can thank God for the gift of Jesus' death upon the cross of Calvary. But that shouldn't be the end of the story. The cross is not just a focal point for veneration. It is also an invitation to each of us to walk the same way of the cross. And just as Jesus loved us enough to come into this fallen world and to take a share in our crosses, so we should bring his love to those around us by helping them carry their crosses. There are people all around us who are out there trying to bear their heavy crosses all alone. And they don't know that Christ has died for them, or they've forgotten it, or they don't know that they can just reach out to him. And Jesus is yearning to strengthen them. He just needs hands and feet and tongues to help him. Our hands, our feet, our tongues. And we each know at least one person who is struggling to carry their cross. What better way to thank Jesus for his gift to us than to promise him to lend that person a hand, to pray for them, to accompany them, to relieve their burden as much as we can, to show them through our own confidence in God that there is hope and that Christ can give meaning to our suffering. The first reading today told us that ours were the sufferings he bore, ours the sorrows he carried. As the Lord comes to strengthen us again today, let us promise him to do the same for our neighbour.